A young boy hears his cat meowing before quickly uncovering the dark reality. Pets are the best. If you have the time, money, and space to get one, it's a pretty good guarantee that your life will improve. A pet provides companionship and fuzzy snuggles, listens to your problems, and never complains about politics. Every once in a while, though, a pet owner will get more than they bargained for. House training problems, aggressive tricks, or even seemingly paranormal activity can be part and parcel with a new pet. For one Wisconsin family, it was the latter when they brought a shelter cat home. His airy abilities instantly changed their lives. On a Friday afternoon in February 2012, young mom Amy Jung and her son Ethan stopped by the Humane Society in Door County, Wisconsin. It was just going to be a quick visit to see some animals, Amy thought. When they walked in, they were greeted by a 21-pound orange tabby named Pudding. He seemed laid back and friendly, and Amy asked about him to the shelter staff, who told her of his surprising background. Up until a month prior, Puddin had been living with another cat, a younger kitten named Whimsy. When their owner passed away, now they were both at the shelter together and they were inseparable. Even before that, Puddin hadn't had an easy life. He'd been in and out of the shelter for years, starting in 2003 and more recently in 2008, when a family gave him up due to allergies. He'd even had a name change. At one point, Puddin was called Starbuck. The owner that had recently passed had decided to give him a cozier moniker after seeing how calm he was. The ever-flexible Puddin didn't complain. Now in the shelter, something about the cat struck a chord with Amy. She couldn't put her finger on it, but he connected so well with her and with Ethan. Even the director of the shelter, Carrie Conahan, noticed that Puddin gravitated towards them. On impulse, Amy decided to adopt Puddin. Ethan thought it was a great idea too, but they couldn't leave Puddin's brother Whimsy all alone, so they signed the papers for both cats and loaded their new pals into the car. When they arrived at the Jung household, Puddin and Whimsy settled in right away. Most animals would be nervous or wary of a new environment, but Puddin in particular seemed comfortable and relaxed. After dinner and an evening of getting the cats situated, it was time for bed. At around 9:30 p.m., Amy headed to her room to tuck in for the night, leaving her bedroom door open so Puddin could roam. At first, all seemed normal, but 90 minutes later, Amy, who'd been diagnosed with diabetes in her youth and had been living with it since, began having a diabetic seizure. She was dead asleep. Puddin sprang into action, sensing Amy's distress. He leapt onto her chest, but she didn't wake up, so he batted and nipped at her nose until she did. Panicked, Amy called out for Ethan. But the seizure took hold again, and Amy soon lapsed back into the unconsciousness. Unbeknownst to her, Ethan hadn't heard the calls or the commotion. Down the hall in his bedroom, he wasn't even awake. Puddin dashed into the boys' room and jumped on his bed, pouncing until he got Ethan's attention. When he woke up to the cat in a frenzy, Ethan knew something was wrong. Puddin stood guard as Ethan rushed in and found his mother. Still in the midst of the seizure, fully awake now, he called his dad for help, who talked him through the steps to administer an emergency injection for Amy. When Amy felt well again, she was astounded at the alertness Puddin had shown. For a cat just getting to know his surroundings and who had known his new owner for less than a day, his life-saving behavior was unusual. News spread of Pudding's heroics, and soon TV stations and Green Bay Post-Gazette reporters were knocking at the door wanting to interview Amy. If something or someone hadn't pulled me out of that, I wouldn't be here, she told them. Director Conahan from the shelter was impressed too. Her doctor said she could have gone into a coma and not come out of it if much more time had gone by. She said, "The fact that Puddin did what he did is just amazing to me." Pudding's instincts didn't stop there. After Amy's seizure, she started to bring Puddin everywhere, even to her job at the local florist, where he learned to stand watch and meow whenever he sensed her blood pressure dropping into the danger zone. Amy's doctor recommended she sign Puddin up to be a therapy cat. Given his chill disposition, he was a shoe-in and passed the registration with flying colors. He even had his own Facebook fan page, Puddin Jung. And what about Whimsy? Just 3 years old at the time, he had a few more years before he could fill the older cat's shoes, but the director Conahan was hopeful. Maybe he'll pick up some of Pudding's superpowers, she said. Director Conahan's hope wasn't completely out of the picture. Pet owners all over the world have seen their friends pull life-saving maneuvers that seem to defy science or explanation.